This is the North Korea 2026.
Excuse me?
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Security,
this is starting. We're starting a press conference.
Where is my security? Come on. Come on. Come on.
The 2026 World Cup.
Come on.
It makes sense for everyone. Here we go, Seth. That's it for that. Thank you. Here's Seth. All there.
By 2016, FIFA was on its knees. Scandal had gutted the organization from the inside, and longtime president Sepp Blatter was being shown the door in disgrace. Into that wreckage walked Gianni Infantino, pitching himself as the guy who'd fix everything. His opening promise was bold. FIFA has gone through some sad times, moments of crisis, but those times are over. We're going to win back respect through hard work and commitment. The crowds bought it. Football breathed a little easier. 10 years on, that promise looks a lot more complicated. Instead of rebuilding trust quietly, Infantino found himself at the center of a commercial proposal so sweeping that critics feared it could fundamentally reshape how the World Cup works. People inside football started connecting the dots, and things got messy fast. As one observer put it, Infantino doesn't see himself merely as the head of world football. He sees himself as a world leader, full stop. And that's exactly what infuriates fans who keep watching him redraw the game's boundaries. But to understand how it all blew up, you have to go back to that summer. FIFA had just wrapped the most commercially lucrative World Cup in history. Money was flowing in at record levels. Publicly, it looked like another win for Infantino's expanding empire. Privately, something far bigger was quietly being assembled, and once it surfaced, the fallout threatened to crack FIFA wide open. Every decision made at the top of football should serve the sport itself, not the personal ambitions of whoever holds power. That's the standard critics are now demanding. And by that standard, Gianni Infantino keeps falling short. The call is getting louder. Football needs a leader fans can actually respect, not one who keeps making headlines for the wrong reasons.
Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel Arab. Today I feel African. Today I feel gay.
The proposal on the table involves selling a 20% commercial stake in FIFA for $4.2 billion, which puts a $20 billion valuation on the World Cup's commercial future. This wasn't a minor sponsorship tweak or a routine broadcast deal. It was a potential handover of the tournament's commercial soul, and the numbers made the stakes impossible to ignore. For nearly 100 years, the World Cup has meant something beyond just football. It's the one competition where smaller nations can dream big, where unknown players become national heroes in a matter of weeks, and where a single magical run can define a country for generations. That's the thing people are fighting to protect.
Okay.
One of the many that I threw over the disgraced former FIFA president Sepp Blatter.
Wow. Okay. What? Instantly, my first question there is that they weren't real bills, were they?
They were real. You know, it gets talked about a lot.
But critics fear that bringing private equity into this picture changes everything. Under this setup, whoever holds that stake would control copyrights, ticket distribution, digital licensing, and global sponsorship packages. FIFA claims it would keep majority voting control, but that reassurance only goes so far. When investors put billions into something, they're not doing it out of love for the game. They want returns, and serious ones at that. Commercial pressure follows money like a shadow. Suddenly, every decision carries a price tag, and anything not generating maximum revenue looks like a wasted opportunity. FIFA's framing describes this as a venture that would benefit all 211 member associations by unlocking commercial value the sport hasn't yet captured. But the question critics keep asking is simple. At what cost to the game itself? Investors at that level don't write blank checks. They want to say scheduling decisions, broadcast windows, match formats, sponsorship deals, all shaped around protecting their return.
Chill, relax. We work on everything. We try to solve everything.
Doesn't see himself just as the leader of world football. He sees himself as somebody who's at the same level as a president, as a world leader. And that's what really, really annoys a lot of football fans, because they look at him and say, why are you getting involved in politics? Why you keep changing the rules of the game, or altering the size of World Cups and trying to have World Cups every 2 years and come up with new tournaments?
And once billions are on the table, those conversations don't stay polite suggestions for long. Which raises the obvious question: how did Infantino think he could push something this big through FIFA without triggering a full-scale revolt? Because this wasn't some minor commercial tweak. It cut straight to the financial core of the World Cup itself. And this is where classic FIFA politics walked right in. Infantino clearly understood the danger of going public too early. Throw a proposal this controversial into the open, and the reaction could be savage, with comparisons flying to the European Super League Backlash. Fans, federations, leagues, powerful officials, everyone would have questions. And once the details leaked, controlling the story would get a lot harder. So FIFA went quiet, behind the scenes. Strengthening the commercial side of the game is the natural next step in this evolution, came the official line. We believe the FFE proposal would unlock the sport's potential in every corner of the world. Then, in late July, a letter landed with all 201 FIFA member associations. The message was clean and simple. Back the creation of FIFA Forward Enterprise by September, and FIFA would immediately double the Forward Development Grant from $10 million to $20 million per nation, with another $20 million potentially to follow. Critics looked at that timing and asked the obvious: was this genuine development funding, or a financial incentive designed to make rejection feel almost impossible? Calling it a bribe is a serious claim that needs evidence. But politically, the structure was striking. For England, France, Germany, or Spain, another $20 million is a footnote.
Just do the job that you're supposed to do, which is to be a leader of world football, and everything you should do should be for the good of the game, not about your own ego. So perhaps that is what the leaders of these federations who are having these discussions now, and confederations.
But FIFA's membership isn't built around Europe's giants. For smaller federations across Africa, Oceania, and the Caribbean, a guaranteed $20 million cash injection is enormous. New training centers, better pitches, youth programs, coaching systems, facilities that some associations might otherwise spend years chasing. Here's the thing about FIFA's one nation, one vote rule. It changes everything. At Congress, Montserrat and Tahiti carry the exact same voting weight as Germany, England, and Brazil. Doesn't matter how many World Cups you've won or how massive your domestic league is. When the vote's called, everyone gets one. That rule is exactly why Infantino's financial strategy was so clever. By dangling millions in development funding for FIFA's smaller, quieter member associations, he could quietly build a voting bloc big enough to bury resistance from Europe's traditional powerhouses.
Well, FIFA Forward Enterprise, or FFE, is actually a proposal, an offer. It's part of a democratic process, a consultation process, and above all, it is an opportunity, but not an obligation.
Whether those associations saw the money as an incentive or just a genuinely good deal, the numbers could stack heavily in his favor. But the moment that proposal leaked into the wider football world, quiet internal negotiation was over. This became a full-scale political war over who actually controls the World Cup's future. The backlash hit fast and hard. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin reportedly made his position crystal clear almost immediately, warning that if private equity was allowed to take a financial stake connected to the World Cup, European national teams could refuse to participate in FIFA competitions altogether. That wasn't a politely worded disagreement about broadcast rights. That was a direct threat. Suddenly, FIFA wasn't just managing angry executives, it was staring down the real possibility of its flagship tournament collapsing into an unprecedented power struggle. And to feel the full weight of that threat, just think about what a World Cup looks like without France, England, Spain, and Germany on the pitch. Mbappe, Holland if Norway had qualified, Kane, Yamal, Dembélé, gone. Just like that, a huge slice of the tournament's biggest names, rivalries, fan bases, and commercial markets vanishes from FIFA's most valuable product. That's when the money problem gets really ugly. Broadcasters don't pay eye-watering sums for TV rights if Europe's stars aren't playing. Sponsors don't write premium checks when football's most marketable faces are sitting at home watching. And millions of European fans aren't booking flights across the world for a tournament their countries aren't even in. Sure, Messi, Vinicius, Argentina, Brazil, plenty of other major nations might still show up, but commercially and culturally, it wouldn't be the same World Cup. Not even close. Then the resistance started piling up fast. CONMEBOL reportedly rejected the proposal outright, and the Asian Football Confederation voiced serious concerns without fully slamming the door. That alone would have given Infantino a significant headache. But then, the trouble started coming from inside FIFA itself. One of Infantino's senior advisors resigned. FIFA's COO reportedly acknowledged that senior figures within the organization felt they'd been misled about the entire project. This wasn't just UEFA making noise from the outside anymore. The questions were now coming from people inside FIFA's own walls, which raised one very obvious problem. How much did senior officials actually know about a proposal involving the most valuable sporting property on the planet? The carefully managed image Infantino had built was cracking. Critics could now frame him as a rogue executive who tried to push through a massive commercial deal without proper transparency or internal agreement. Fair or not, something far more serious, questions about authority, governance, and exactly how much unchecked power FIFA's president should hold over football's crown jewels. Some ambitious plans look completely ridiculous right up until they somehow work. This one was moving in the opposite direction entirely. With a European boycott now hanging over the whole idea, Infantino was staring at a nightmare. Losing Europe's biggest nations could have demolished the World Cup's commercial value, spooked broadcasters and sponsors, and blown a massive hole in FIFA's finances. The proposal that had apparently been pushed forward in secret was now politically toxic, and Infantino had no choice but to execute one of the most embarrassing U-turns of his presidency. Just days after this near Dr. Evil-level scheme became football's biggest power struggle, FIFA pulled the plug completely. A formal statement confirmed the FIFA Forward Enterprise proposal had been officially withdrawn. After all the money, the maneuvering, and the mounting resistance, the whole plan was dead. The damage didn't just vanish when the proposal was pulled. 5 days later, Infantino called an emergency meeting of executive committee members in Rabat, Morocco, and the atmosphere had shifted completely. The swagger was gone. In its place came damage control, a written apology to member associations, and an acknowledgement that serious mistakes had been made in how the whole process was handled. He also promised that no commercial restructuring of that scale would be attempted again without wider consultation. But that's exactly what made the apology so telling. It wasn't really an admission that the idea itself was wrong, just that the rollout had blown up in his face. The regret was about the process, not the ambition. Think of it like trying to nutmeg someone inside your own penalty box, losing possession, watching the other team score, and then telling your manager the only problem was the technique. Maybe the execution was poor, sure, but everyone else is wondering why you tried it there at all. Withdrawing the proposal and issuing an apology wasn't going to quietly bury this. The retreat actually made things worse because it exposed just how deep the divisions inside world football had become. FIFA looked vulnerable, Infantino's authority was being openly questioned, and UEFA moved quickly to press the advantage. European officials made their loss of confidence in his leadership increasingly clear. Legal action was being floated, and serious questions kept circulating about how the proposal had even been developed in the first place. This wasn't a dispute over one commercial project anymore. It was a full-scale battle over trust, transparency, and who actually controls the sport. Infantino survived the Morocco meeting, but the political damage was real. The grip he'd held over FIFA was starting to look shakier, with powerful opponents sensing an opening. Here's the twist though, was he actually as exposed as he appeared? Because that voting system we touched on earlier might still hand him a way out. Even with parts of his coalition under strain, Infantino could lean on a deep well of support across FIFA's 211 member associations. To win a presidential election, you need 106 votes, and building that kind of majority is exactly where his political operation has always been at its strongest. Across Africa alone, the Confederation of African Football represents 54 voting associations, and that's before you count the smaller federations scattered across Asia, Oceania, the Caribbean, and beyond. Every single one of those associations carries the same one vote as England, Germany, or Brazil. Population, trophies, TV money, none of that buys you extra ballots at a FIFA election. Infantino has spent years working that math to his advantage. FIFA Forward development funding grew during his tenure, and expanding the Men's World Cup to 48 teams opened up qualification slots for regions that had historically been locked out. Africa's guaranteed spots jumped from 5 to 9, with another possible slot through the Interconfederation playoff. That's not abstract politics for those nations. That's real, tangible progress. So writing him off completely, that could be a serious miscalculation. If his alliances hold, including CONMEBOL and much of the global south, there's a genuine path to the 106 votes needed to survive the next election. His options are pretty straightforward. He leans harder into those relationships, points to his development record, and dares someone to outbid him politically. Critics will raise questions about whether financial promises are shaping votes, but accusations without hard evidence only go so far. The other route is a quiet, face-saving exit, though nothing about Infantino's track record suggests that's where he's heading, which means someone eventually has to step up and challenge him directly. One name keeps surfacing: CONCACAF President Victor Montagliani, a serious power broker in North American football. He already serves as a FIFA vice president, played a central role around the 2026 World Cup, and knows exactly how the internal machine operates. The catch? In an interview with The Guardian earlier this year, Montagliani said he wouldn't run until 2031, which is the election after March. Infantino made his position clear, but that doesn't mean the timeline is locked in. Football politics moves fast. If opposition keeps building and associations start believing a real challenger can actually win, candidates like Montagliani could face serious pressure to step up. A race that looked settled could turn into a genuine fight. For most of the past decade, Infantino has run FIFA from a position of near untouchable strength. Now he could be walking into the most dangerous political moment of his presidency. But his future isn't even the biggest question here. What does any of this actually mean for the sport itself? In the short term, the people who fought to keep private equity away from the World Cup can claim a real win. The proposal got pulled, the resistance held, and football avoided a commercial experiment that could have fundamentally reshaped its biggest tournament, and the rest of us can stop trying to picture what $4.2 billion actually looks like, because once the numbers get that large, they stop feeling real. Don't mistake this moment for a permanent victory, though. Football is already drowning in money. Investment funds, broadcasters, sponsors, billionaires, and governments all know exactly how valuable this sport has become. Wherever that kind of money exists, someone is always looking for the next angle. The Men's World Cup is expanding to 48 teams. The Club World Cup is now a 32-team monster. More teams means more matches, more broadcast hours, more sponsorship slots, more tickets, and more revenue opportunities. Running events at that scale costs an enormous amount of money, which means the pressure to find new income streams isn't going anywhere. And as long as FIFA keeps treating commercial growth like the only scoreboard that matters, the temptation to extract more money from the game will always be there. Maybe this specific proposal is dead. Maybe Infantino weathers the political storm. Maybe he doesn't. But the deeper fight over who controls football, who profits from it, and how far the sport goes in chasing endless growth is far from finished. Because football has to eventually decide what it actually wants to be. Is the World Cup a competition belonging to the nations, players, and fans who made it matter? Or is it becoming an entertainment product where every match, kickoff time, and sponsorship slot has a price tag attached? That question isn't going away. Subscribe for football takes that never pull punches, and catch you next time. That's the part nobody wants to say out loud. FIFA blinked this time, but the money is still there. The investors are still there. The commercial pressure hasn't gone anywhere. The next proposal will just show up with a cleaner name, a slicker pitch, and a smarter structure. Count on it. So here's what I want to know. Was FIFA right to even entertain a deal like this, or has private equity already gotten too close to the soul of international football? And after everything we've walked through, does Infantino survive the political blowback, or are we watching the early stages of his exit? Drop your take in the comments. This one's gonna get heated. If the video hit, leave a like, share it with a football fan who needs to know this story, and subscribe to Global Kickoff for more dives into the money, politics, and power struggles running the beautiful game behind the scenes. See you in the next one.